What up, YouTube? I am the Communist Messiah, and today I think I'm gonna wade into the YouTube snipe storm that is religion. Nothing on the internet ever causes so big a shitstorm as discussing religion. Ever. But I said I would. That's what this channel is about. So I'm going to. Before anyone says anything, I would like to show you this. This right here is my copy of the New Jerusalem Bible. I don't want to be accused of not having read one, not owning one. So this is the Bible I shall be using. Okay. So, biblical literalism. This idea that every single word in the Bible is written by God and is therefore accurate. This is a problem because if you take the Bible literally, you are actually guilty of the sin of idolatry. Because you are limiting God's abilities and you are forcing upon Him your beliefs. I'll explain. Biblical literalism, we're taking the Bible literally. So that means that the story in Genesis 1, creation, is true. Okay. That means that it took God 6 days to create the world, the universe. And He took a day off at the end to rest. Immediately we're seeing the problems. One problem. If God is omnipotent, all-powerful, why does He need 6 days? Surely if God is all-powerful and He has this idea for a universe, surely He could just go, done. Universe there. 1 day. A nanosecond. If God is all-powerful, just snap of the fingers, bang, universe exists. But no, it takes Him 6 days. And He has to do it a bit by a bit, by a bit, by a bit, by a bit, by a bit. That negates God's omnipotence. Equally, God's omniscience conflicts with other elements of the Bible as well as other elements of the attributes of God. There are a few attributes of God that are widely considered as just correct by most Christians, regardless of what branch of Christianity they belong to. Those things are omniscience, all-knowing, omnipotence, all-powerful, omnibenevolence, all-loving, omnipresence, everywhere at once, transcendence, outside of time and space, immanence, within creation. That paradox in itself deserves an episode, and it's going to get one. So immanence. He is within creation as well. Herein lies the issue. God apparently gives us free will. That's how Adam is able to sin. Correct? Why would an all-knowing God, who would know what Adam was going to do, why would an all-knowing God leave the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden when He could easily not have? You know, God created the universe, according to Genesis. And He decides to put a tree, a singular tree, in the middle of this garden that could undo all of the good work that He did. That seems nonsensical. An all-loving God would want to avoid man having to suffer. An all-knowing God would have known that Adam would have taken the fruit. An all-powerful God would have known not to need to put that tree there. It just seems ridiculous when free will is still there. Like, there is the free will, but kind of like when you baby-proof a house. You make it so that whilst the baby can crawl pretty much anywhere, there's no chance of it hurting itself. You give the baby freedom, but there's no chance of it getting hurt. Couldn't God, our Father, have done the same? Given us freedom within the garden without the risk of hurting ourselves, as Adam did in the story of Genesis. It just doesn't seem sensible to assume that creating the ability for sin was a good idea. I have difficulty wrapping my head around that one in particular. The other issue with Genesis is that it anthropomorphizes God. And the moment you start referring to God as him, he, you have already limited God. You have already committed the sin of idolatry. You have given God attributes that are not his. You call God him or he, you have now given him male characteristics. Well, God is supposed to be genderless. Furthermore, the book of Genesis says that humans are made in God's image and likeness. By making humans in his image, that means that God has a shape, God has a form, which doesn't fit with the transcendent idea of God. I will do a whole nother video on eternalism and the eternal nature of God, which will cover all of this, and you'll find out that there is actually no definite answer as to what God's eternalism actually means. But his transcendence, which is an element of that, is negated when you say that he has the likeness and image of a human. Likeness as well. If we are made in God's likeness, that means that our attitude is supposed to be like him. Now, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who was a brilliant philosopher, argued this point fervently. He believed that humans were essentially good. God is essentially good. It was the formation of cities and states that caused humans to become wicked. Thomas Hobbes had a completely different outlook on things, and he said the exact opposite. But if we are in God's likeness, we are not omnipresent, we are not omnibenevolent, we are not omniscient, we are not omnipotent. According to the traditional attributes of God, the standard list of things that God is supposed to be, humankind doesn't cover any of them. Not one. And you can argue that we are imperfect forms, but that's just Plato. That's Platonic argument, that there is a perfect version and that is God, and we are the imperfect copies. But at the end of the day, that's not a Christian belief. That's Greek. That's the philosopher Plato. So, the whole idea of is if you take Genesis literally, you are actually committing the sin of idolatry, if you believe in that. If you believe that idolatry is a sin and it's an issue, you are actually committing that sin because you are forcing your ideas, your perceptions, onto God. Now, I will do another, I'm promising a whole lot of episodes here, but I will do another episode where I cover how best to talk about God without risking blasphemy and idolatry. And I will cover God's eternalism and what that means, and whether there is actually an actual way of describing what God is eternal actually means that isn't. So, But from this, taking the Bible literally, just from Genesis chapters 1, 2, and 3, it already limits God. For instance, God is surprised and disappointed when Adam takes the fruit, when Eve takes the fruit as well. Why would a God who is omniscient, all-knowing, have an issue with that? Surely he would know. Because he knows everything. So wouldn't he have known that that was going to happen? So why would he be surprised and disappointed? I'll leave you with that one. What do you think? Is biblical literalism a real problem? Is biblical literalism A, ridiculous to the scientific mind, and B, blasphemous to the religious one? Tell me what you think. Leave it in the comment section below. You can find me on Facebook at the Communist Messiah, and you can drop me an email if you really want to. So at the communistmessiah@hotmail.co.uk. That's it. See you, YouTube.